I saw it happen to you twice yesterday. It's not. It's no fun.
Yeah. I see. It's difficult to tell whether it's Twitch or whether it's me, just because it goes back up straight away, and you're like, "Well, what was the problem? What happened?"
Must have been your connection. I didn't see anything. It's fine for me.
Yeah, sure. So if anybody can just like type refresh into the chat so everybody sees it. The stream is back up. We are good. We are healthy. Okay,
also,
right.
no one can blame me this time because I saw people blaming me yesterday, even though I was actually watching your channel. That was my fault yesterday. Can't be my fault. You can see my hands. I didn't do anything this time.
Doesn't matter. It's like you went. We couldn't see you physically, so we could just blame you. It was too easy.
There's no time that Musco is talking that his hands are not visible.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, I have to hold on to the chair so I'm not swinging around. My watch is probably like, good workout happening right now.
Oh my god. Right. Okay. Next question. Let's just dive into this. And it looks like this one's going to be about the expansion again, but not so much what you think. Okay. So let's be real. It's now been 16 months, if I worked this out correctly, without an expansion for this game. It's fair to say that content released between then has not been... Is that supposed to say then and now? I think that's supposed to say then and now. Has not been exactly what the community has wanted, or at the very least, enough of what they wanted. And I think I would go with the latter there, enough of what they wanted. With this in mind, expectations are high. I know they are high from me, but I always set mine way too high because apparently I love feeling disappointed. So yeah, if you two were to put yourself in the shoes of the players, so you two are no longer developers for Star Wars: The Old Republic, you never worked on the game, but you have been playing the game since launch, what would your expectations be for this expansion coming up?
100% Kaizen expansion.
Should have seen that one coming.
That's such a hard question because I don't like. I think your joke is actually true. I think too often people's expectations get crazy and they set themselves up for disappointment. It's all too common. Like even like the expansions that people speak really highly of, like Shadow of Revan and Rise of the Hutt Cartel. I remember because I was here going through them. There was plenty of disappointment when those went out the door. And so I think it's just people just have to like when we get closer into talking about the things that are coming in the expansion, just wait for us to tell you the things that are coming in the expansion. Try not to get carried away with assumptions of things that will be there. On the flip side, let us know things you want there. Yeah. That's helpful. Yeah. But I think like I don't know, it's just hey look, I follow games, I follow movies, right? Like I set myself up for disappointment all the time. That's how it works. We all just get ourselves super amped up for things, and then we're like, well, nothing can live up to this expectation that I've set. So I don't know. That's really a tricky question. Also, because we're still figuring out what the expansion even is, so I don't really know that it'd be easy to answer that question.
Still figuring out what it even is. Damn. It's Republic versus Imperial, like you've already said.
There's one.
Yeah. Well, the story is usually pretty early in the planning, given the whole long chain of writing, dialogue recording,
of course,
scripting, cinematics, etc.
Yep.
Okay, so there was another question here, but it's pretty much now what we already know, like the future of the story every 10 for Imperial versus Republic. But we now have that. We now have that. There's also one for taking questions from the chat. So we're now going to move into the PvP section of the interview. But in the meantime, guys, while I ask the next question, if you can please post a question, something to do with PvE, operations, and the expansion if you want to try a look. And we'll just grab something from the chat and we'll ask it. And I'll try to get a couple this time because I don't think the PvP section of this is going to take very long, personally, because I'm not going to understand any of it. Okay. So, again, we're starting off with a pretty long-winded question, I suppose. So here we go. PvP stuff, guys. So the latest PvP update we had was a new map, which is the Yavin Ruins. Now, this map saw mixed feelings, simply because it's a rehash of the Alderaan Civil War map. Moving forward, will we see new unique maps, along with new unique objective types?
Yeah, I mean, couldn't go either way, right? Like, there's not a policy of all new maps must be, reskins with modification. It was just something where we thought that would be a fun chance to kind of redo Alderaan and make some improvements. Sometimes they might be, like, especially cases like Huttball, where it really makes sense to do a very similar kind of layout, just with different traps. It's a game. we would probably tend to go that direction. But other cases, there's lots of PvP objective type things that we haven't explored at all. Like I've always wanted to do a polymorph war zone where you both fight as your own character and can occasionally take over walkers or tanks or what have you. That would probably call for different objectives, or it could call for, that would work great in like a de novo setup where it's, territorial control potentially. So it can really go either way. I think I wouldn't want to say one way or the other because I think it should be whatever is best for the gameplay that we're looking for on that particular, map or experience.
That's awesome. So since that didn't really go the way I was expecting it to, but I do accept the answer, of course.
There's more I can say, yeah.
Right, okay, let me get a question from the chat really quickly. Also, if you guys see one, feel free to just grab it.
Sure.
If you see one that appeals to you.
Will there ever be a new species to play? Sure, maybe. We're just talking about
sure, maybe. You're so coy. Yeah. Sure.
It's not out of the realm of possibility.
Yep.
One thing we had a kind of a list of a few that we were talking about, so I wouldn't want to give a specific one yet, but the artists were interested in doing one.
One thing I can say, because I was talking to Keith about this earlier today, about coming on the interview and stuff, and one thing Keith wanted me to make sure that I pointed out is that it is not lost on Keith and the team that throughout, take Yavin out of the equation, a lot of the things that we've done under Keith's reign in the past year and a half has been a lot of PvE focus and some like obviously we did story content coming out of the chapters, we did an operation, we've done some flashpoints. And PvP is kind of something we haven't really done a lot for. And so it's definitely high on our radar that we should do something for PvPers and soon.
Yes.
So it's absolutely not lost on us.
Awesome.
Is Jason coming back? Dark Side Jason, yes. I haven't got specific plans to announce for Light Side Jason yet.
Oh, it's so difficult to read the questions. It keeps auto-scrolling down. I'm like, I see a question. No, and it's gone. Okay.
Do we play the game? Yes, constantly.
Of course they play the game. It's just such a silly question. Someone says, hey, Musco, get a real interview. That's hilarious. Nice try.
Is that like the twist ending where they wake up and realize that none of this has actually happened?
It's been a dream all along. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so let's just move on. And it's funny you guys are saying desync because that is the next question. Keith does play almost every day. He's in the chat now.
Yeah. Actually, by the way, again, my hands are here, so if you see SlowToward chat, it's Keith. Gotta be. I hope, anyway.
Oh, God. Right, okay.
So I can answer desync, sort of. I have a sort of answer.
Yes.
I was talking to the engineers earlier. There's an understanding of why it happens, which is basically when you press the button, the game thinks you're in one place, or you or the target are in one place, and then when it resolves, the place is not where it said it was originally, and so it puts you in the other place that you are in. That's why, like, if you charge, sometimes it will miss jumping up a level on help ball or something like that. That's one of those things that's going to fall under the probably unsatisfying answer of literally it is something that falls under performance that the team is looking at all times of ways to improve. So there isn't something specific that they can do distinctly tied to desync, but it is one of those things that as we always monitor and improve general performance, it's something that will get better and or worse as performance waxes and wanes as we do things. So it's something the team is always aware of and looking at trying to improve.
Awesome. Okay, I think that pretty much answers the question that I was going to go with anyways, and since it's a long-winded one, let's just move past it. Okay, so the next question is class balancing, actually. So this is going to be a fun one. So we did see class balancing happen in 5.x etc. Blah, 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 blah. It's my opinion that having all classes balanced perfectly would be near impossible. I just feel like that's something not any game would be able to do unless it was a PvP-focused game, I suppose. Or at least I imagine it would be done with great difficulty. With that being said, there clearly is still a gap between some of the classes, and my example here is Mercenary versus Sorcerer, and the Sorc likely doesn't stand a chance because the Mercenary is just way too OP. Let's just face it, the mech is OP. So just what exactly are you guys planning to fix these sort of balance issues specifically? Like in depth as you can go.
Yeah, so there are changes planned for 5.9 from what I know right now. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. So there are changes that we're looking at for skank tanking, which for those that don't know, it's tanks and DPS gear. In PvP, they're too good. they're weird hybridization. It's not something that really should be happening. So we're looking at changes to make them less effective. We're being cautious about what we do because we don't want to impact people who aren't skank tanking and they're just trying to play regularly, but it's probably going to be a side effect of the changes, but we're working out exactly what that is. There are utility changes coming to classes as well. Yeah. And I'm trying to remember what they are, but I believe most of them were targeting classes like sorts. And again, I don't remember exactly who's changing, so I could be wrong here, but it was meant to target classes that could use a little help. Because really,
Mercs, those were mostly buffs.
Yeah, Mercs and Sorks as a comparison to each other, the reason Mercs are so much better than Sorks largely is because of how much utility they have, right? Like they have,
and how often you have to stand still versus able to move.
They're self-healing. They can do more on the move. They have more defensive cooldowns, right? That just tends to make them better. Not exclusively, but it's one of the reasons. And so we have utility changes planned to kind of help address that. And I think Charles is right. I think most of those are buffs. I'm trying to think if there's anything else specifically in there. I can tell you the Sorks. I think literally just yesterday Keith was talking about Sorks doing more damage. He's like, buff them by 35%. Like he's throwing out Keith numbers.
Do it. Just do it.
It's definitely on the radar and something the team monitors constantly, especially now that they balanced everything in a, like I know there was the Band-Aid rip last year of the massive bounce changes that happened, but it got everything to be pretty close to where they should be in our actual targets. And so we monitor those targets, and then everything else is kind of just balancing the utilities and stuff around it to make sure they're pretty close. Because to your point, bounce is never going to be perfect. It's a constantly moving, fluid thing.
Yeah, I think that is probably something that in the long term people would have to accept. I would agree that it would be something very difficult to do. And it's only something that you can help as like time goes on. Okay, so since you guys mentioned it in skank tanks, can you tell us?
Keith's throwing questions at us in chat. Thanks, Keith.
Ask them about PvP gearing. Oh god, that is in here. Don't worry, it's in here. So since we got on the topic of skank tanks, even can you tell us exactly what you were doing?
So the plan that I know that we have right now is to reduce the part of it is to, in simple terms, reduce the damage tanks do, increase their threat generation. If we look at where tanks fall on our DPS breakdown that we explained last year, tanks already do too much damage today. They do way more than we intend them to do. So part of it is going to be bringing their damage down to bring them more in line with what is expected, and to counter that by giving them more threat generation so that it doesn't negatively impact tanks in PvE. Now, them doing less damage will negatively impact tanks in PvE as well. So we're being cautious about exactly how we tune that. But
so is that like where the utilities changes comes into play? Because obviously threat generation in PvP is, pointless.
Correct. But the problem with tanks in PvP, skank tanks in PvP, is they do too much damage, along with the survivability they get natively to their discipline, right? So we need to take their damage down to stop that problem. And then PvE, them doing less damage will mean they will also have less threat generation. So by increasing their threat generation, we kind of counterbalance that problem. It's not perfect, and it's obviously going to have side effects, but that's what we're looking at doing right now.
Awesome.
And those details should be out next week.
Well, they're out now. On this
the details.
Yes, numbers.
Exact numbers.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so since we was told to ask about it, and it's already in here anyways. PvP gear. Let's talk about PvP gear. What is that? What is PvP gear? Is it even in the game?
Would it be cool if we brought back expertise? Yes, no?
I personally feel like I wouldn't mind either way, but I do kind of miss that grind for PvP gear. So I think I would be on board with a return for PvP gear.
Yeah, it's something we're considering. I wouldn't put like a timeline on it, but obviously it's a pretty significant change. But I to your point, like it really gives PvP players their own kind of chase, their own kind of
their own domain
to go on that lets them stick to what they really love, particularly, right? So, which is always a good thing. So.
But it's part of re-itemizing half of the game.
Right. So a significant amount of work.
Not a small thing.
Right.
Not a small thing.
Kind of balance
awesome.
it out.
There is some mixed messages about that in the chat. I think it's leaning towards expertise. Okay, so since this has been spammed a lot, and I know we're running short now on time, ranked Season 9 and rewards. Do we know anything more?
It's going to end in the summer.
Yep.
I
think we already knew that.
Timing? I don't know if we'll give exact timing.
Yeah.
But it'll end this summer. Midsummer is probably safe to say.
Yeah.
It's still a few months away, and we will announce rewards as soon as humanly possible. As soon as we have locked down exactly what they are and we can show them to you, that's when we'll ideally announce them.
Right.
Including tiers and all the other stuff. But
awesome.
midsummer.
Yeah. Can you guarantee that those rewards are going to be amazing?
I'm trying to think of what we've talked about.
I have frequently guaranteed things were going to be amazing, and then
yeah. I'm trying to think. I don't remember what we've talked about having for the season reward, so I cannot guarantee that.
Yeah. I think they'll be cool.
I'm sure they'll be good.
Okay, so let's move on to another one really quickly. Let's fit this in. All right, so this is also related to PvP. It's also related to group finder / activity window. So there is, of course, a group finder lockout. If you abandon your group, you get locked out for 15 minutes. I know you guys know where this is going now. Why is this not the same for PvP, along with the ties to this with the ignore list? Obviously, when you've got someone on your ignore list, you can't be queued with them in group finder, but it's different with PvP.
Yep.
Why is this?
Two things. The first one, we're actively looking into how to turn it on, because we believe it's there, and we're just trying to figure out
why it's not
on and why it's not implemented. But you're right. You should have especially now that those two systems are intertwined, they should work that way. I believe the answer to the second question is we had a period of time where that may have worked that way, where ignore did stop people from being partnered up in PvP when people were using it for, oh, this person's terrible at PvP, I'm going to put them on my ignore list so I don't have to play with them.
Yep.
Whatever. So I think it may have either that happened or that was just the concern of what would happen. But I'll check with the team, especially as we're looking at the lever stuff, and see if it's something we can turn on as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it's actually it's nice to hear you guys say that, because it seems like it's not something that's been talked about a lot, and it would be cool to have that there, because I would agree that people who leave the war zones shouldn't be allowed to queue back in straight away.
Yep. Agreed.
Okay, so what was before this? Here it is. Okay, ranked war zones. We have 6 minutes. We can do this, guys. Don't worry. Ranked war zones. So now that servers have merged and there appears to be a lot more people interested in PvP, gotta say I've definitely noticed much more interest in PvP. Pretty much every time I log in, there's people going for PvP all of the time. It's really, really cool to see. So with that being said, is bringing back ranked war zones something you have talked about, or can you see it something happening in the foreseeable future?
It's definitely something we talked about.
Yeah.
Again, you have to understand we talk about all sorts of crazy stuff all the time. Not that that's necessarily crazy.
Yep.
Again, a lot of that was that the participation was through the floor. I feel like if everyone who has asked us to bring back 8v8 war zones actually played them at the time, they might not have gone away.
Yep.
But that's not a reason. Like we said, popularity isn't the core or only deciding factor on whether we do a thing. So we've definitely discussed it a lot. I think Keith even is a particular fan of it. So it could happen.
Yep. We talked very actively about how we could bring it back, whether it's permanently, whether we brought it as back part of like
maybe a special event,
PvP event where AV8 Ranked was back. Yep. Very serious conversations have happened about it.
Awesome.
It'll always come up. We'll bring it up all the time.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Players will continue to bring it up. Therefore, we will continue to bring it up.
Yeah.
We will always talk about it.
Okay, so I think that is the majority of all of the questions, and hopefully people are satisfied with majority of those answers. I did just see one question in chat, and I'm just gonna throw at you guys really quickly because I think it's really funny. Is there going to be a killable option for Ferron later on?
I don't feel like I can answer that question without creating spoilers, so I'm not going to say.
You're not going to say it?
If you know that you have an option or don't, then you can surmise things about the story, I think.
Can you?
That I would rather not.
It's risky. It's a risky move.
I'm just going to take
I'm
as
very
a yes.
paranoid about spoilers.
Okay,
I mean,
it's natural that you would be.
It feels pretty fair to be.
That's just me.
Yep.
Okay, so there are lots of other questions.
Been letting you kill a lot of people lately, so odds are the story would be one where you feel like you would need to. We probably would. How's that?
Sam's not convinced. Sam's not convinced by your non-answer, Charles. It's almost an answer. It's unfair because I know the answer, so I guess I
he's just
feel like
I making it harder and harder.
I guess,
Okay, let's make this the last one. This one's being spammed.
You don't have to wait long.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Furious weapons, Furious armor set. Is he gonna come back? Are we gonna see it?
All right, so serious, real talk for a second. Right?
Real talk.
We have to be very careful about bringing old things back. Shay and Nico, as an example, right?
Okay.
Extenuating circumstances in it. But anytime we take something that people earned previously and we give them the opportunity to earn it again, even if we make it harder or different, we have to be very sensitive to that. So I think in general, the sentiment towards old PvP rewards is that as long as people could get them through PvP, which first off, we would never put them anywhere that wasn't in gameplay anyway. But if we brought them back in PvP, maybe made them harder, whatever, something like that, it probably would be okay. But it's one of those things where it's tricky to find the best mechanism to do it, and then we need to be sensitive to the people that already have it. So
yes,
yeah.
Well, of
we
course.
talked about it a lot for sure because we know there's a humongous desire to get those. I mean,
definitely like to have them myself.
Some of the especially some of the older rewards that were amazing, and having the opportunity to get them would be great. So
cool. So I just saw Keith say this in chat, and I'm going to say really quickly. I'm going to really push this. Apparently there is a new stronghold coming.
Yes.
A new stronghold is in the plan.
I'll pretend Keith asked that question. Good question, random person in the chat. Can confirm that there is a stronghold in the works. Good question.
We've also got some other very experimental stuff we're doing with strongholds right now.
Oh, okay.
I'm afraid to say more than that in case it blows up in our face when we try it. But
experimental stuff.
It's exciting, and I think it's going to be cool. So as soon as we have detail on that, we will share it as well. But we're hoping to kind of put it out at the same time as that new stronghold, and we're really targeting something soon, as early as the summer.
Okay, that's pretty awesome. I like the sound of that. I like to get hyped.
I'm going to jump in. I've seen a lot of questions about Malgus. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you one way or another whether Malgus will come back, but I will possibly break wiki rules of some kind and say that if you go onto the Wikipedia page and edit out the part that says that he definitely got frozen in carbonite, which is definitely not true. That was a cut thing from a trailer that we never released. That they state as fact. Do it, screenshot it, and send Musco a picture. I will personally get you something from the cartel market because I don't like it when I see untrue things on wikis. Wow.
All right, I'm gonna push it.
One way or the other. But we never said one way or the other.
One more question. Right, this has to be asked. Okay, this has been discussed within my Discord for weeks. Okay, and Charles, you need to answer it. Okay, the answer has to come from you.
Right.
Darth Malgus versus Darth Ma. Who wins? Who wins? I need an answer.
Obviously,
give me the answer.
In a fight between Darth Malgus and Darth Mar.
Who did you say?
The fans.
Oh, the fans?
Everyone.
That's not an answer. What are you doing? The question was Darth Mar or Malgus, man.
And Malgus, we don't know what happened to him, but he's probably dead.
Okay, but let's say they were both alive in a room.
Object. What happens if a dead person fights someone in carbonite? What?
Yeah.
Which is not carbonite.
I feel like there's probably some kind of math that I'm surprised no one has done. It's like so-and-so beat Malgus once, and that person beat this person, who then beat this person, who Mar beat or something. Like, there's got to be some chain
we need the flow chart.
There was something that was discussed, but it was more along the lines of Mar saw Satele has his only other equal in the universe, and Malgus could beat Satele, so they determined Malgus was stronger than Mar because Mar said that Satele was the equal, etc., etc. I think that's how they came to the conclusion of Malgus, but
that's if
family
we assume
disagree.
Mar meant that equal, and then thus below anyone else.
Yeah.
Because Satele beat Malgus, and if Mar is equal to Satele, then that would mean Mar thought he was better than Malgus.
The argument was that Satele had help in the fight.
The Jedi unfair fighting.
All right.
I feel like Malgus wasn't alone that day either. I don't know.
No, that's very true. That's very true. Okay, I'm gonna take what I can get. So that's awesome. Thank you guys for doing this today. It's super awesome for you to take the time out. I know you guys had some. Well, I know Charles had some issues, so it was honestly I really do appreciate you coming. It's always awesome to do these kind of things. So yes, thank you for joining. I guess I will say farewell. Bid you farewell. I'm sure the chat is going to do the same thing. You don't have to hold your hand up. Don't worry, Eric. You can just say bye. Your words work just as well.
Yeah, just... Hold on. This is my permanent wave hand.
I thought you were going to do the live long and prosper thing. Like, that would just be not a good thing for you to do.
That's what happens here.
Yes. Right. So, yep. Just once again, thank you for joining, and hopefully we can do this again. Maybe same time next year.
Even though it took months planning to make this happen.
Yep.
Because our schedules
Let's start now.
Because our schedules are awful.
Yep.
Anytime months from now, lock it in.
Awesome. I will definitely be on the ball with that one. And it's going to be amazing, and it's going to be about Republic versus Empire expansion specifically, and I want all of the answers, and I want Jace back, and yeah, just give me Jace back, damn it.
What's going to happen once we can finally tell you that Jace is back in an interview? Like, it's just everything's just going to fall. Everything we've built this friendship upon is going to fall apart.
Which Jace do you want back?
I want Darkside Jace.
Okay, then you're covered. Yeah,
I'm covered.
You don't have. I don't think you'll even have very long to wait.
Okay, that's very good news. It's very good news.
Yeah.
It's very good news. Awesome. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for answering that.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good one.
Bye.
Enjoy the week.
You too, guys.
Bye.
Enjoy yourselves. And goodbye.
Bye.
Awkward goodbyes are great. Bye.